Hello. So I wanted to get on here and make this video for people who are going through or have been through similar situations. I need to tell you guys, and this is actually healing for me too. I'm gonna tell you guys my situations, okay? So if you have seen the video that I posted on YouTube a month or two ago, which is called A Few Thoughts for Light Workers, it details how I got into this line of work. It details how I went through an intense spiritual awakening. It details the fact that the father of my youngest daughter is a pedophile. It explains, I had no idea that this man was a pedophile prior to, but my intuition started kicking in. I'm not going to get into that whole story. If you want to know about it, you can buy my book, which is called The Pretty Pedophile, and it's going to be on sale again on my website later on this month. It's called mytarotshop.com. I want to tell you about this other situation, okay? So, I had a child when I was young. Well, I'm not going to say young. I had my first child when I was 19 years old. And being 19 years old, in South Central LA, I just felt like, oh, nobody's going to want me because I have a child and blah, blah, blah. And when I tell you, my body used to be banging, okay? It was big boobs, big old booty, okay? Flat stomach, just everything. And when I had a child, when you have your first child, your body kind of changes. Not saying that it ain't banging right now, but your body kind of changes. And so I had probably gained about 20 pounds at that point, thinking that that was major. Y'all mothers know. And so I was just like, nobody's going to want, me because I'm a single mom. I have a kid and blah, blah, blah. Now, I ended up reconnecting with someone who I have met in high school. I knew this person in high school. I talked to them in high school. We dated in high school. They moved to another state, the state that they are originally from. They have moved to that state and they came back to California. They came back to LA. And so when they came back, they was on me like really tough. Long story short, this person had ended up getting put out of their people's houses because he had stolen from his aunt. He stole from his aunt a large, substantial amount of money, and she put him out. He stole a lot, and so she put this man out. He comes from a really toxic background where he used to constantly get beat. Like his father had come to my house and beat him. Okay, that's how bad it was. His father, we lived on our own, me and my cousins. My grandmother had a duplex, and so we lived on our own in the back house. And so we used to be free. And so his dad ended up pulling up to my house to beat him. But he used to beat him 24/7 for everything, like real child abuse, like for child abuse. He used to get up in his ass, okay? And he was a teenager. But anyways, this guy came back and we decided to be together. I decided to give him a chance and leave the person that I was with. I left the person I was with because I didn't want somebody who was, a drug dealer or anything like that. Because, I was a mother, and so I'm a mother, and I'm supposed to do stuff right. I'm supposed to do stuff legit. I can't be dealing with these, these hood niggas. Excuse my language, but that's how I talk. And so I ended up getting with this guy. I ended up being with him. I ended up marrying him. And the reason I married him, like I'm telling y'all, it was all such a freaking mistake. But I got married because I have been taking care of him. I have been taking care of him for a year or more, okay? He had got put out. I was a boss at my job. I've always been a boss since I was a kid. I was a boss at my job. I had hired him and his homeboy. They was messing up. I had to let them go. It was just a whole bunch of stuff. He could never keep a job, no stable employment, no nothing. So one day I was like, hey, I'm taking care of my kid. I can't be taking care of no grown up. So you gonna have to, you ain't been trying to look for a job. I'm at work every day. My child is at daycare. You ain't been trying to look for no job. And so we gonna have to break up and you gonna have to go. And so I said that, and this man asked me to marry him. He asked me to marry him, and he went down the street. We lived in Lancaster. He went down the street and he enlisted in the military within that same week. So I said, okay, he is trying, he's trying because I forced him to try and blah, blah, blah. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to marry you. So we ended up going down to the courthouse and we got married. He went off to the military. I went shortly after him. He went to A school. Like, that's the only thing he completed in the military. He went to A school. When he went to his A school, which is just the basic training, we moved to Florida. I got an apartment in Florida, right across the street from the base in Pensacola. And so I started seeing something different. Now, mind you, this man always been broke the whole relationship. I'm the one with the money. So he had always been broke. And so now I'm out there and I don't have a job. And I used to do hair, braids, weaves, you name it. I used to do everything on top of, I used to hustle, okay, on top of a main job. And so I was out there, not knowing anyone, nothing. And I had a child with me. And so we were heavily reliant on him. And he never wanted to do anything. He didn't want to buy food for the house. He didn't want to he didn't want to do anything. He started lying and saying that they didn't pay him and things like that. I remember one night I was pissed. I forget why I was pissed. I think it's because he was, mind you, we don't know nobody. So he went to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, which was just his basic training. He went to his training, his A school for his job. And he didn't used to come back until 7 or so, because he was hanging out and he was playing video games and he was doing this, that, and the third. And so one day I was just like, yo, I'm about to leave. I'm not about to deal with this. I'm hot shit. I'm hot in these streets. That's how I felt about it at that point. Because when I first got with him and I first had my child, I wasn't feeling like that. But this was a year and a half, 2 years down the line, okay? This was 2 years down the line, not a year and a half, 2 years down the line. So I'm like, I'm hot. I ain't got to put up with this stuff. I'm not about to sit here in isolation and you been going 13, 14 hours a day and you not actually working. And so I forgot what he said to me, but I turned around and I said, your mama. Now, his mama passed away when we were dating, when we were kids. His mama had passed away. So I was like, yo, mama. And my mouth used to be so reckless. Y'all know I don't get down like that no more. But I told him, yo, mama, this man charged at me with all his might. We had a long hallway. He charged at me. He picked me up and he body slammed me. He proceeded to try to beat me up. I got him off of me. I got my child and I left. Luckily, my sister, she had been asking me to go to Colorado because she had children and I used to babysit her kids. Every time she used to call me, she needed a babysitter. I used to leave whatever state I was in and I used to come and help her out because those were my nieces and nephews. And so my sister had called me and she had told me, come out here, I need help and blah, blah, blah. So I didn't tell her what was going on. I was just like, okay, say less. I went out there. I left. Took the bus, took the Greyhound with my son, and we went to Colorado. So after that, he had been calling me like, oh, I miss you and I want you to come back and blah, blah, blah. And all I kept thinking was like, okay, don't nobody in my family know what's going on. And I've only been married for, I think it was 6 months at that point. 5 months. I'm like, I've only been married for 5 months. I cannot have a failed marriage. My grandmother is going to be like, she's going to be like, this is your fault. You couldn't keep that. Because, people in my family, they tend to be like, all men are the same. You got to pick your poison. I ain't never believed that. I've never believed that. And to this day, I don't believe that. And that's because I have experienced really great men. But she's like, I was weighing what everybody else would think about my relationship being failed in such a short period of time. I was thinking about, I just got married, and my people was telling me, like my cousins, my little cousins and stuff like that, they was telling me, don't marry this, he's a lame, he's like, they didn't like him. He was stealing from my family members and stuff like that, and they was telling me like, don't marry him. But the older people was like with it, and so I didn't want to disappoint my family. I ended up in Colorado. I had ended up going to the doctor, and I found out I was pregnant. I didn't say nothing to nobody. I ended up going back to Florida. I told him, and he was just so happy. And he was, because he wanted a baby. He had been talking about having a baby all this time, like the whole time we were in Florida. He had been talking about having a baby, and so, prior to me finding out I was pregnant. And so he was so excited, and please, I just want to be there. This is my first child, and blah blah blah, and all this stuff. And so I went back to Florida. This was the first incidence of domestic violence. And so I was just like, it's not no biggie. It's nothing. I know how to fight. I'll be out there. I used to be out there. So I was like, it's not no big deal, and blah, blah, blah. And so I went back. And the more pregnant I got sicker. So this pregnancy, I had preeclampsia. Preeclampsia is extremely high blood pressure while you're pregnant. It causes your limbs to be swollen and things like that. And basically the only cure for preeclampsia is to have your baby. So I had preeclampsia. Not only that, I had hyperemesis, so I constantly threw up. I was vomiting with all my pregnancies. I had hyperemesis. I vomit up until like dang near until the baby is born. So it's basically morning sickness forever. Morning sickness throughout the pregnancy. And so I had hyperemesis, and so I was like extremely sick. I couldn't get out of bed. I could barely take care of myself, and it was for a while. And so I didn't notice the stuff that he was doing or the stuff that was going on around me. We kept about to get evicted, and I'm like, well, why ain't the rent paid? And the rent was only like $900 at that time. I'm like, why ain't the rent paid if we getting $2,000? Because in the military, basic pay is only $1,100 for an E1. And when you are married, they give you dependent pay, which is a little bit more. So he had dependent pay as well. Or I think basic pay was $900 a month, and then the dependent pay was $1,100, yeah. So, our bills not getting paid. We getting eviction letters, and this place is in my name, okay? We getting eviction notices and things like that, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? So one day he calls me, and he had been arrested. And I said, how you get arrested? What do you mean? He went to military jail for stealing. What'd you steal? It was the new Lil Wayne CD, okay? The Carter 5 or something. This was in 2009, so y'all correct me. It was the Carter. It was a Carter version. I think it was a Carter 5. But he stole a Lil Wayne CD from the commissary on base, and he went to the brig. He had got arrested. They sentenced him to 5 days because the military, they give you a slap on the wrist. So they gave him 5 days, and plus it wasn't that, he stole a CD. But then I'm at home, and I'm starting to look around because I got to get up, and I'm looking around. I got to take care of my kids. I used to go to the kitchen, the bathroom, my room. That's it. I never used to really go in the living room. We had this closet behind the door. Lord, I opened this closet behind the door. This man has stole a treadmill from off base. He stole a whole ass treadmill. He stole like so much stuff, like so many different things. And that's when I started realizing, oh, you a thief. My cousin's iPod had came up missing. Come to find out, he had stole that too. I didn't know this until literally years down the line. I thought it was someone else. I was blaming someone else. It was a big old fallout and come to find out it was him. So all this stuff, like he had been doing a whole bunch of stuff, okay? I had no idea. I had a PlayStation and an Xbox in that little closet. All this stuff he had stole. Not only that, he had went to Rent-A-Center and purchased a whole bunch of items as well that he hid in the closet. So that explained why we couldn't pay our rent or our bills. Y'all give me 1 second, I'll be right. Okay, y'all, I'm back. I forgot where I left off though. I know I was talking about, I went back to Florida and I decided to, you know, work things out and things like that. Things were going great. Or I'm not going to say things were going great. Things were going okay. And then I remember I had these people come over my house. It was like his friends. Because I used to be like, why can't I hang out? Why can't I blah, blah, blah? And he used to tell me, oh, it's because my friends, they just hate you and blah, blah, blah. Like, mind you, I had never met these people a day in my life. So I knew that it was just him trying to manipulate me. And I ain't never been weak-minded. You know, I might have dealt with some like issues with low self-esteem, which is what caused me to get married in the first place. But like, he was like telling me, oh, these people hate you. And they said this, that, and the third about you. And it was just a constant thing. And I was like, well, why do they hate me? Why do they? Oh, it's because you don't allow me to spend a night on base. And, you know, they be having parties all through the night and blah, blah. I'm like, I never said anything. Even like, I was just like, why do they hate me? I was so pregnant and so sensitive. And he just used to make shit up, right? And so I remember they had came over my house and I was already looking like, why are y'all over here and you don't like me? But I tried to, you know, provide some hospitality and I tried to like cook and I tried to, you know, do all this stuff. And I'm a cook. I could cook. Now, if you ask this tourist, he'd be like, you say that, but all you do is eat out. But I eat out because of him. But so I, you know, try my best to like, you know, be a good wife and do all of this stuff and make friends with his friends who I didn't know, but I had been told that they just hate my guts for no apparent reason. That didn't work out. One day I was talking to his sister and his sister absolutely hated him. His sister used to talk about he was a victim of, I don't know if I should say this in this video, but he was a victim. He was a victim when he was a teenager. And his sister used to say stuff like, oh, he's gay and he's blah, blah, blah. And like, she used to like go in on him to me like 24/7. She used to be like, why are you with him? He ain't nothing, blah, blah, blah. So one day his sister was like, yo, I think he's still talking to his ex-girlfriend. Now me, I don't know why, but I just never, that kind of stuff never moved me. But she told me that, and probably like 2 days later, the ex-girlfriend hits me up. She had joined the military years before him, and she was just like, yeah, I've been talking to him the entire time that you guys have been together. We've never stopped talking. So it's been like 2.5, 3 years. And I'm married, and I've been waiting for the day that I could talk to you or that I could reach out to you because, girl, this man has done this, that, and the third for me. He has blah, blah, blah. Now, mind you, we struggling. And he's doing stuff for this person who has a whole man who does not want him, who, you know, she gave me the whole rundown. She was like, you know, you deserve better and you shouldn't be with him and blah, blah, blah. So at that point, I was just like, you know, it is what it is. I was like, I'm not about to have no baby with him. I'm not about to do none of this stuff. Whatever, but I had all these health issues and we were in the military. So military insurance is called TRICARE. With military insurance, basically I was gonna not proceed with my pregnancy and I was unable to. Okay, I'm so glad I was unable to because this child of mine is the truth. He the truth. He the truth. He act just like me, and so basically all these circumstances happened. I ended up staying in this relationship and I was so unhappy. I was so unhappy. It was constant like arguing and things like that because he was lying, he was stealing. We never had no food. We was like practically starving. Okay. So we were set to move, and he was supposed to pick his location, and they said, you know, you can pick Hawaii, or you can pick California, or you could pick one other place. And I said, you know, pick California because I want to go home. You know, I want to go home. I want to be around my family and blah, blah, blah. And he told me he picked California. He didn't pick California. He had lied. He picked Hawaii. We ended up, and I'm pregnant this whole time, and I kept just giving him a chance because I was just like, you know, he's saying that he wants to be a father. He's saying that he gassing me up basically. So I'm feeling like, you know, he wants to be a parent, and so I'm going to let him be a parent, and we're going to work on our marriage. And, you know, maybe it's just because of the people that he was around, because he used to hang out with this gay guy, Tough, which is why his sister was saying he was gay too. But he used to hang out with this gay guy, Tough, and this gay girl, and like you know, it's just the people that he's around, and they're telling him to do this, that, and the third. They're telling him to treat me like crap, and, you know, I know the gay guy probably likes him and wants him. Ignorance. I was ignorant. And so I'm all like, you know, I'm not going to, you know, it's going to be different when we move. It's going to be different when we move. Last minute, I find out we're moving to Hawaii. I had already went to California. He calls and he tells me, oh, we're going to Hawaii, and, you know, they're going to ship our stuff. I packed up all of our stuff. I had boxed up all our stuff before I had even left. And all he had to do was have them come ship it, right? So we end up staying in California for like a month or so before we went to Hawaii. And we went to Hawaii. We stayed in a hotel room because he didn't get his housing done. He didn't do the paperwork. He didn't do none of that. So we all had to stay in a hotel room. Finally, they put us up in a house, but we are still getting dependent allowance or housing allowance from the state of Florida. So the housing allowance is $1,100, but our rent in our house in Hawaii on base is $2,300. And so they're taking his entire check. The whole check is gone because of rent. I think it was like $2,500. And so the entire check was gone because of rent. This lasted for a long time where we didn't have no money, nothing. We didn't know about military family assistance. Well, I didn't know about military family assistance. I'm telling you, I was pregnant. I used to eat ice. We used to go to the store. We would have one of his friends, which was a really good guy. He used to let him borrow money. So he borrowed like $20, $30 for him. And I'll just go buy some cereal, some milk, and a whole bunch of top ramen because I had to feed my son. So all he was eating was cereal, milk, and top ramen because we didn't have a freaking dime, okay? And so I wasn't eating. I was pregnant, and I was just eating ice, and I was sicker and sicker, and I was constantly going to the hospital during my pregnancy. And we lived on base. We lived in Waipahu, Hawaii. And I used to have to walk probably like an hour to get to the bus stop because we didn't have no car. I had left my car in California, you know, and we used to have to walk like hours. I used to have to walk with my son to get to the bus stop. And this man had never left since we lived in Hawaii. He had never left the house. And I was like, how are you working? And he used to tell me like, you know, I don't have to work right now. They telling me I don't have to go to work, but I'm constantly going to the doctor. You're not going with me, nothing. He's just sitting there playing video games the whole time. So I ended up having my son. I was 2 weeks overdue. So I had my son at 42 weeks exactly, 42 weeks in one day. I ended up having my son when we lived in Hawaii. Trying to make sure I didn't skip anything. Yes, I did. I skipped something major. Okay. So I was 40 weeks pregnant. I was overdue. And you know, I was going back and forth to the doctor. Come to find out, my doctor had went on vacation. I just don't like the military in any way, shape, or form. I have military clients and I love them to death, but I don't love the structure of the military. I hate it. But basically, so we had got into it. I remember this one night, me and him had got into an argument because, mind you, we didn't have no food. I wasn't eating. One day, I was about to wash his clothes and he had stuff in his pocket. So I went in his pocket. He had a GameStop receipt for video games. He had a Jack in the Box receipt where he had ate food. When I tell you all I ate that day was crushed fucking ice, that's all I had eaten that day was crushed ice. And He had ate a whole combo, large combo from Jack in the Box. He had, you know, done all this stuff, and he was acting like he was hungry. He was acting like I hadn't eaten. And so I went the fuck off. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I've been starving, like to the point where I used to cry all day long because I was so hungry. I was so fucking hungry, and I didn't have anybody to help. And I was like, yo, can you borrow like $10? Can you blah, blah, blah? Because, you know, I could make something out of nothing. We could eat sandwiches. We could blah, blah, blah. But we couldn't do that because he was borrowing money. He was borrowing hundreds of dollars from this friend, not just the $20 and $30 he was telling me about. He was borrowing hundreds of dollars and spending it on video games and on himself. And so I was like, fuck this, I'm leaving and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm over here fucking starving, and, you know, I'm stuck on this punk ass island and blah, blah, blah. Like, it was a problem. It was an issue. I packed my shit. I packed one bag because that's all I had. So I told y'all earlier that all he had to do was ship our stuff. Come to find out, months passed, and none of our clothes, none of our stuff, none of my child's toys, nothing has come, nothing has shipped. And I'm keep telling him, hey, can you check in with them and see what's going on? If you ever been a military spouse, you know that you don't got no pull. You can't really do anything. And so I'm like, yo, can you check in with them, see what's going on? Come to find out, he had thrown all our shit away. He only shipped his stuff. He had thrown everything that belonged to me and my kid away, but didn't tell me, and he was pretending like, oh, they lost the shipment. Oh, this happened, that happened. So this one night, y'all, I'm gonna have to get another break. This one night, I found out that he had this food and all that stuff. And so I was hot, and I was talking a whole bunch of stuff, and I said, yo, I'm leaving. I'm not about to be with you. I don't care how I get home, because I didn't know nothing about the military. So I was like, I don't care. I'm just about to go to the security office, and I'm about to, you know, tell them that I don't got nowhere to stay and blah, blah, blah. And hopefully they send me back to the mainland, which is here, the United States, or it's all the United States, but this part, the mainland, shoot, Hawaii is part of the United States, so this is the mainland. And so why did I say that? This man beat the shit out of me, okay? He pushed me down the stairs. I'm pregnant. We had a whole lot of stairs. He pushed me down the stairs. He dragged me, okay? I tried to run. I ran to like this closet that we had, and he took the doorknob of the closet, and he repeatedly banged and banged and banged it against my stomach until I started to bleed from my vagina. He pushed me on the floor, he dragged me, he sat on top of my stomach, and he choked me out until I passed out. I'll get back to the story, y'all. Hold on, I gotta go. Okay, I'm back, my bad. Anyway, so when I woke up, he was sitting in a couch. He was sitting on the couch, and in the military they let you borrow furniture, so we didn't actually have our own furniture. Well, I got this glare. We didn't actually have our own furniture. It was like, it was kind of like wood in front. It was outdoor patio furniture basically. But he was sitting on it, and he had my son in his hands, and he had a knife in his hands, but my son was asleep. My son was 2 years old, and he was like, if you ever try to leave me, I'll kill you, and I'll kill myself, and all of this stuff, all this crazy shit, okay? So he ended up leaving himself. We literally stayed in that living room all freaking night. Remember, he wasn't going to work, and I had no idea why he wasn't getting up and going to work. But the next day, he ended up leaving himself. I don't know where he went, but he was gone for like quite some time. It was like 2-3 days. And so when he came back in the house, everything was normal. Everything was normal. For one, I didn't want to report the incident because I was like, he's going to get kicked out of the military, or he's going to go to jail, and then, you know, people are going to blame me, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And me, I came from South Central, And my mama is from South Central, okay? My whole family is just hood. And so they have this thing just recently, I went to court because I have a permanent protection order against this person. And my mama was like, you need to stop snitching. Not putting anything on her, not saying anything negative about her. Bless her hood heart. Bless her hood heart. But we don't call the police, okay? And black people don't call the police. And so I couldn't call the police and I couldn't tell nobody what was going on, and I felt like I needed to just take it. And so time passed and, you know, things eased up. He ended up getting his housing allowance and all that stuff fixed. Come to find out, he could have been fixed it when we got there, but he had never signed the paper. It was literally one paper for him to go and sign, and he was going playing video games and hanging out with people and doing all of this stuff. So for, let me see, 6 months, we didn't have nothing because he just didn't feel like going to sign the paper. And I didn't know that until one day I called and I told them, I said, listen, I'm pregnant and I've been hungry, and, you know, this is what's going on, and there's no help for us, and, you know, we're out here and we don't have any family, and we're in Hawaii. Go to the grocery store, bread costs $8, you know, milk costs $8, orange juice costs $11.99. And, you know, I told them, and they were like, well, why don't you call such and such and such, and why don't you blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I had a friend who lived across the street. Her name was Sheree. I loved her. I know she remember all of this stuff. I'm gonna look her up today. But I'm gonna look her up today. Heck yeah. I looked her up before. But she used to help me out a lot. And I remember her. She came up to me when we first lived there. She lived across the street from us. What was her name? Sheree what? Now I looked her up a few years ago. I'm gonna look on my paperwork. But she came up to me when I first moved out there, right? And let me tell you how ignorant I am. Everybody see this dude for what he is. She came up to me the first day. She was like, hey, my name is Sheree, and blah, blah, blah. What's your name? And I'm like, oh, I'm Aisha. And she was like, I commend you. And I was like, you commend me? Why? She's like, I commend you. And I was like, okay. She was like, for marrying him. You know, I work with people like that. I was like, what the heck is she talking about? And she was like, isn't he special education? And I was like, bitch, what? I was like, what do you mean? I didn't see it, but I don't know. I for sure see it now. But I didn't see it. I was like, what is she talking about? And she was like, yeah, I work with people like that. He's special ed. And then when you think about it, how he used to steal the money, spend the money, not pay any bills, let us get evicted, let us be hungry, let us go through all of this stuff. You had to be special education. And I was special ed for fucking with somebody like that. But hey, we live and we learn. So anyways, what happens? Everything was all good. I ended up having my son at 40 weeks. I was over 40 weeks pregnant, okay? And they ended up inducing my labor. And I remember it was the worst freaking storm. All the electricity went out. The generators came on and everything. In Hawaii, they induced my labor. So we go home, and he had never taken care of my other son. He had never, ever done anything for him whatsoever, because every time he did something, it just seemed like it was a problem. He wasn't doing it right every time. Somebody fixing my water heater, y'all, and I don't know what that sound was, but he had never taken care of my other son. I didn't expect him to take care of this one. So we go home, and I find out, or not, that's not yet. We go home and I'm caring for my son every day. In the middle of the night, I'm caring for both of my kids, and this man still ain't never went to work since we lived in Hawaii. He ain't never went to work. Probably maybe like 4 or 5 times since we was there. What is that noise? But my son, my ex used to stay up in the middle of the night all night long. He used to stay up from probably like 8 p.m. to like 5, 6 a.m. Okay, if not later. And he used to just be playing video games. That's it. So I don't deal with no dudes that play video games. I'm traumatized. But all he used to do is play video games all this time. And so, you know, because he was up playing video games, he was responsible for caring for my son overnight. You up, you can feed him. All you gotta do is give him a bottle, change a diaper, do whatever. And so I remember my son started grunting, and I took him to the hospital. I took him to Tripler Army Medical Center in Hawaii. Tripler, TAMC in Hawaii. And they said, oh, he's just constipated. That's why he's grunting. He's constipated. Let's give him a suppository. They gave him a suppository. So then again, that didn't work for me. He was pooping fine. Took him back to the hospital. Oh, he's just a little congested. He'll be fine. You know, this is normal. They were treating me like, oh, she's just an overly worried mom. She's just overly worried. This kid is fine. But he constantly kept grunting, like gasping for air. And they were saying, he just needs to poop. He's just trying to poop. Took him probably 4 times within 2 months. And they kept telling me the same thing. So finally I took him and I said, well, can you check him? Can you give him an x-ray? Maybe he has pneumonia, you know, maybe blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, please, something is going on. So they gave him a chest x-ray, and they brought him back to the room. A few minutes later, it was like, hey, we got to take him to, you know, get another x-ray. We need to do a full body x-ray. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. They doing their due diligence, okay? So they take him to do another x-ray. Then they come, and he's not back in the room. And so I'm like, you know, where's my child? So the police come. And not only do the police come and they say, you know, you guys have to leave the room because, or the baby has been taken to another room, but you guys have to leave the hospital. The Department of Human Services will be talking to you. And I said, no, I'm not leaving no hospital. My 2-month-old baby is here. What is going on? Oh, the Department of Human Services is going to talk to you. No. So I didn't go anywhere. I stayed there. And they were like, okay, if you don't want to leave your child, then you guys are going to have to be supervised. So I'm like, okay, y'all could sit up in here. It was a nurse sitting up in there the whole time. And so we were all sitting in there together. We could all be a family. They come and they tell me, your son has 14 semi-healed fractures. 14. So I said, how is that possible? So then I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe, you know, my other son is 2.5. Maybe he you know, climbed in the bassinet, because we had a bassinet. Maybe he climbed in the bassinet or something like that. Maybe he was on him. But, you know, I don't know what's going on. Like, I was trying to think of every plausible explanation, because I'm like, how did this happen? So they said he has 8 rib fractures. So his ribs were broken 8 times. Then they said his left arm is broken, his wrist and his hand, so the left arm in 2 places. Then they said both of his knees are broken. I'm like, what the fuck? And then they're like, both of his legs are broken. The calf part of his legs are broken. And so I'm hysterical. This man don't bat a fucking eye. He didn't bat an eye, but I didn't pay attention because I'm just like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. How is this possible? They said, we believe that this was intentional abuse. And so trying to figure it out. They're like, you know, they're talking, who cares for the children, who does this and who does that. Well, I care for the children, I care for them, and you know, blah blah blah. And the only time he's dealing with the kids is, or dealing with this child, is at night. So she's like, what did she say? She was like, well, basically, we can't leave the kids unsupervised. We can't force you to leave here because we don't know what happened or who did this. But we are going to put together a multidisciplinary team, and we are going to come back and talk to you guys. So I'm talking to him, and I'm like, yo, what's going on? What happened? And, you know, I don't know. And he's like, man, I don't know. But he's so cool with it. He's like, yo, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what happened. I'm asking them. I done brought my baby to the, y'all saying that these are healed fractures. Y'all saying that this happened when he was 2 weeks old. Well, now he almost 3 months or maybe 4. So why the freaking 4 or 5, 6 times I done brought him to the hospital, y'all ain't said nothing about this? If these fractures are that old to the point where they are healing on their own and they're healing perfectly fine, so what is the problem? Like, the whole time he's like, you know, I don't know what's going on, blah blah blah. His sister calls me, Maisha, he did it. He did it. I know he did it, blah blah blah. And I'm like, this, because his sister is scum of the earth. On God, she's scum of the earth. She has done so much stuff. She's done so much stuff. He's scum too, but his sister has done so much stuff. Like, she flip-flops. Whoever got some cash, that's whose side she's on. Recently, she told me, fuck your kids, bitch, and fuck blah, 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 and I'll beat your ass, and yada, yada, yada. Like, recently, she did all that knowing that she wasn't about to do nothing. But she did all this stuff, right? And so, she was like, he did it. And so I'm like, you know, I don't think that he did it. I don't think so. Why are you saying that he did it? Because you know what happened to him when he was a teenager. He let that happen to him. He's all messed up in the head. He's blah blah blah. Like, she was going in, he's just effed up. You know, this is just an effed up person. And I told you not to be with him, and I told you to leave him a long time ago, and you wanted to be with him, which she did tell me to leave him a long time ago. She was like, but you wanted to be with him. He ain't gonna never be no good. He's just like his daddy, and he's yada yada yada. Like, she went in. And so I'm just feeling like, you know, she's just ignorant. So we speak to the multidisciplinary team. Come to find out, he confesses. He tells them that he did it because he thought that I would wake up and tell him to turn off the game. When my baby was 2 weeks old, he described the whole incident. Not only did he describe the whole incident, they ended up taking measurements of our hands to see, you know, what was the likely cause, or if it was abuse. And it was his hands that matched. But first of all, they didn't tell me this stuff. They just told me, oh, you know, your husband, he cannot come back in this room. You'll be fine. Your husband can't come back. You could take your children home when everything dies down, or when we make sure that your son is okay, you know, and we're doing the paperwork, but you can take him home. This was the social worker in the hospital saying. This is what everybody's saying. You know, he matched these fractures, or he matched these fractures. They didn't say that initially. I read it in the report. I had to read a report that says all of this stuff. And so they're basically, they just told me, like, he can't be here, and he's spoken to NCIS, which is the Naval Command Police, whatever. And so they're like, he spoke to NCIS and blah blah blah, but they didn't tell me what he said to NCIS. So basically, he confessed, but he's calling me while I'm at the hospital, and he's talking to me like, you know, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what happened to him, and I didn't do this, and blah blah blah. Come to find out, he knew the whole time that his hands matched. He knew that he did this. He knew he confessed. Not only did he confess, he gave them super details. Now, I didn't read about these super details until a couple of months later, because what happened after that? he got arrested, he got charged, but he was let out. So basically they kept him in military housing until he await his trial or whatever. And the trial was for breaking the Naval Code of Justice or whatever. He was supposed to be prosecuted by the state of Hawaii, and the military said, oh, we're going to prosecute him. Right now he can still be prosecuted by the state of Hawaii. But anyways, we were in 2 different locations, and he's telling me the whole time, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. And they're not telling me what happened. They're just saying, you're cleared, but he's not. We have to continue to investigate him. Even though they had already investigated and got their stuff, they said, we need you guys to take psychological evaluations. I took one. My psychological evaluation said that I'm very closed off. It said that, you know, no mental disease, no disorders, anything like that. But I am very close. I'm a very closed off individual. His psychological evaluation said that he has intermittent explosive disorder, which is an extremely violent form of bipolar disorder. Mind you, I didn't know this from jump, so I'm just, you know, telling y'all. But anyways, so this man, I didn't know this stuff at first. So this man, he was basically telling me, like, you know, everything's all good. So the day we were supposed to leave the hospital, and he wasn't in jail. He was, at this point, he was going to work. Oh, remember I said he hadn't been to work since we lived in Hawaii. Come to find out, he had told the military, my wife is very sick. She has preeclampsia, and she has, you know, this high-risk pregnancy. And so I have to accompany her to the hospital. She goes to the doctor every other day. And so he was saying that he was going with me to the hospital. And this man never attended one hospital visit. He stayed at home playing the video game while me and my son walked so freaking long. I think it was like at least 1.5 miles, 2 miles, while I'm big and pregnant with preeclampsia, swollen limbs, all that stuff. We used to walk to the bus stop, get on a bus, go take it to the other base where the doctor was. And he had never, ever been with us, okay? But he told them that he wasn't going to work because of that. So he had got in trouble, and they had forced him to start going back to work. Now, before, he had never worked out. He was very large because he told them that he had shin splints. So he could not exercise. He couldn't do basic exercise when he was in the basic training in Florida. And he got a doctor's note every single week to say that he has shin splints. So he can't do anything in the military. So he had never actually worked his actual job, nothing whatsoever. He had never actually worked his actual job or anything. But at this point, he told me he was awaiting security clearance, and that's why he wasn't going to work. But that actually was not true in any way, shape, or form. He didn't have security clearance, but that's because he had never done the things he was doing. Mind you, we were there at this point for like a year and something, and this man had never went to work. So anyways, they had made him go to work. And so when he went to work, because of the kind of, I think at this point he was like E2. He had moved up to E2, and they had knocked him back down. And people were asking him, I guess, you know, what happened? What's going on? Why are you in trouble? Why can't you be at your home? He told people, my wife has postpartum depression, and this is what she did to my child, but I took the blame for it so that she can get my children. And the people that he told this to decided that they were going to tell the social worker his story, which the social worker didn't believe because they had already had the evidence that I didn't know about. But they put extras on it and was like, mind you, I had never met anybody. I only knew one of his friends, a really good guy who used to loan us money. But these people that he told this to in work, he had told them that I was violent. He had told them that I was doing all kind of stuff. And they said that they were scared for the safety of my children. And so they were going to, so basically they falsely reported. Now, because of the false report in the open case, social services had to do their due diligence, okay? And they said, okay, the day I was supposed to take them home, you can't take the kids home. We're gonna put them in a safe home, which is going to be with one of Mr. I'm not gonna say his name, but one of your ex's friends or co-workers or something like that. These people were people who believed his BS and believed the lies that he told. I stayed at their home, you know, taking care of my kids and all this other stuff. But the social worker, within like a month, the social worker was like, kind of like, this is BS. This woman is a good woman. She's a good mother. Her son is only 2 years old. He's been potty trained for over a year. He knows how to read. Like, she's an amazing freaking mother. She's very attentive. She's very caring, and yada, yada, yada. And so they returned them. And they said that he can have supervised visits with them. That's it, just supervised visits. He didn't want no visits. He didn't want no visits at all. And I felt like it would be damaging for my older son to have visits with him because he wouldn't understand what was going on. So that's psychological trauma. So he didn't want any visits. I wasn't taking them to the location because he wasn't requesting any. It was through social services, and social services wrote in their report, and I told him, you need to at least see the baby, because remember, I didn't know what was going on. I still had no idea what was going on at that point. I didn't know until we went to court, which was a couple of months later, and they laid everything out there. They laid all their evidence out there against him. I had no idea of this stuff. So I'm still thinking, like, we don't know what's going on, and these white folks is just trying to get us. And so I was telling him, you need to see the baby, because it's not going to affect the baby, but it will affect my older son's, you know, psychological well-being. If, you know, he don't know what's going on, he don't know why you're not here, and he's attached. So it's going to affect him. So he was like, no, I'm not about to see him. He wasn't seeing the baby. He wasn't doing anything. And I was telling him, it's going to look really bad. It's going to look really bad that you're not seeing the baby and you're not going to therapy, or you're not doing all this stuff, and they're accusing you of this stuff. So you at least got to make it, you know, look like you're doing what you need to do. He didn't do nothing. He didn't do anything. He went to therapy probably like 3 times. And it was just like him blaming everyone else about his circumstances. Him blaming his father. My father used to beat me so bad, and so that's why I have anger issues and blah blah blah. He didn't take any parenting classes. He didn't do anything. So at this point, I had a way out of the state, and I'm like, listen, I want to leave. I don't want to live here. He was doing so much. He was doing so much. So I said, you know, guys, I told the social worker, you know, I want to leave, and I told the military liaison who I had been in contact with at that point, and a multidisciplinary team, that I want to leave. So we went to court, and that's when they laid out all their stuff against him. But the court was basically like, there's no reason to have family supervision because this woman has done nothing wrong. He's going to jail for a very, very, very long time, and so we don't have to be concerned about him being around the children. They were like, you know, this happened, that happened. This is the evidence that we have against him. This is how we know for a fact that she is not a threat. And this is how we know for a fact that, you know, the little rumors that he was spreading about it was a lie. Mind you, I didn't know he had been spreading rumors or anything like that. But that's what they said. And so I was just confused, and I was just like, okay, well, my main focus is getting out of this state. So they gave me the children. The children had already been living with me. I don't know if I said that, but they gave me the children. I kept them. Or they relinquished their guardianship. They were already in my care, but not guardianship. So they gave me the children, and I moved. And when I moved to Colorado. I got an apartment on my own. I received money from transitional compensation for abused family members, which is basically the military. If you've been a victim of domestic violence or any kind of violence, and your partner or person is in the military has to pay you however much their pay rate was at that time. They have to pay you for however long they were supposed to be in the military. So he was supposed to be in there for 4 more years, and so they paid me for 4 years. They paid me a very, very substantial amount of money. Okay, he got out early, so he ended up doing 6 months. 6 months. I ended up seeing the paperwork later on, but he ended up doing 6 months, and he came running to Colorado. Said, you can't live here because of A, B, C, and D. You can't stay here, or, you know, it's going to be some trouble. So he ended up, he did all kind of stuff. He did all kind of stuff. He used to stay in storage closets, storage rooms. He used to break into my place. And mind you, I wasn't telling anybody what was going on. I was acting like everything was all good. He used to break into my place. I moved several times and he would still break in. I remember I took my sister in and I was getting on my sister like, yo, you eating up all my food and you doing this, that, and the third and blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, you not cleaning. I tell you to do the, like, I was getting on her head, and come to find out, it was a really bad rainstorm. And during this bad rainstorm, we had to come home early. My car had broke down and had been in the shop, so we caught the bus, me and my kids and my sister. And when we came home, he was passed out on my bed with a plate of food. Come to find out, he had been living in my attic. He had been living in my attic. I ended up moving. I moved to a top floor condo. And when I moved, let me skip back. I had another child, okay? So in 2011, my brother had a couple of kids. He had 2 kids back to back, and I was taking care of the kids for the most part because the mom was trash as heck. She was trash, and so I was taking care of the kids. One was a real preemie, super preemie, and I had decided, you know, I want to have another child. And so this person, I had been helping him because my motto was like, I'm going to pray for you. Like, I prayed for him. I tried to take him to church. I tried to, you know, do anything because they said he was mentally ill. I tried to get him into therapy, into counseling and things like that. But we weren't in the same house. Okay, my brother was staying with me at the time because him and his baby mama was just having all kind of issues. But he was staying with me, and their kids was at my house 24/7. The little one was, it's them. They pretty much, you could say they live there. Okay, so basically she was pregnant. The baby mama was pregnant. And I was like, you know, I want to have another child. And so I propositioned him because we were in contacts. And I propositioned him and I said, hey, let's do this arrangement. Okay. Kind of like I ain't going to get into all my business. But I was like, let's do this arrangement. You know, I'm never going to date again. And I said, I'm never going to date again because I felt like at that point, if my kids' own father doesn't care about them or love them, then it's not possible for another man to. It's not possible. So I'm not even going to play myself and bring nobody around my kids, knowing that my kids are the most important thing in my life. I'm not going to bring nobody in their lives, period. So that was my mindset. So I said, hey, you want to have a baby with me? He said, yeah, first try. Because I got the ovulation. We did everything the right way. Got pregnant first try. Ended up getting pregnant with my daughter. He wasn't around. He ended up getting someone else pregnant. I think the day that my daughter was born, he ended up getting someone else pregnant. The little girl's birthday is like September of 2012. He used to donate blood or plasma at a plasma center, and one of the technicians ended up taking him in, sleeping with him, getting pregnant by him. And so he got a kid out there that he ain't never been around, never really taken care of, nothing. She filed a protection order against him too. But I had my daughter. I remember I had my daughter, and the hospital had left the afterbirth in me. So I had a very severe infection. And when I had this severe infection, I had to get a DNC because they had for the afterbirth, but I had an allergic reaction to the anesthesia that they gave me. And so I was really numb, like I was really out of it. I couldn't move my neck, like I was stiff. It was a lot of stuff wrong with me. And they tried to convince me to stay in the hospital, and I was like, I can't, because I have a newborn. I don't have nobody to take care of my kids. You know, I got 3 kids that I don't have nobody to take care of. My family ain't gonna come through to take care of my kids. So I remember I went home and I was trying to take care of my kids and stuff like that. And I remember he came to my house. And when I tell you, during my pregnancy, let's back up, during my pregnancy, he would pop up. He had broke out the windows of my apartment and had us hiding in one of the bedrooms. He had done so much stuff, okay? So I was constantly moving. I'm quick to move. If I don't feel safe, I'm out of here. Y'all look at that. That's a camera. I have a camera in my room and in my living room. Only places that don't have cameras in my house is in my kids' room or my bathrooms, because they deserve privacy. But I'm quick to move if I don't feel safe. And I got cameras because of the extreme stalking that I've had to endure, breaking in my house and stuff like that. But he had done so much stuff. I remember I was pregnant, and when I got pregnant, I was diagnosed with lupus. It doesn't affect me. If I did blood work today, it would say that I don't have lupus. Every time I get pregnant, I end up getting diagnosed with lupus. And I got diagnosed with lupus because I could not walk during my pregnancy, and my body was eating away at my placenta. So that is a symptom. Your body starts to think that everything is a foreign object or something, and so it starts to attack it. And so it was eating away at my placenta. So I was on bed rest. I couldn't walk. I used to crawl around and stuff like that all the time. And I remember I was crawling to the bathroom, and this man hauled off and came. He came in my house, and when I was crawling to the bathroom, I remember I was in the hallway, and this dude literally kicked me. Okay, while I was down, literally kicked me. We had not been getting into nothing like that. This is just what he did. So part of intermittent explosive disorder, from what I've learned or what I learned at that time, you are so nice to everybody in the outside world, and you hold everything in, and then the people who know you or the people who are closer to you, you let all your aggression out on those people. So I remember he did that. Around that same time, he stole my rent money. He stole my electricity money. I used to have my money orders on my fireplace. Like, he stole all my stuff. Excuse me. He had stolen all my stuff. And I used to call the police on him religiously. Like, he does not live here. He keeps coming to my house. He keeps finding out where I live. He follows me from work. I was a teacher at the time. He does this, that, and the third. He don't live here, but he's taking everything. He done walked out with my kids' TV, with PlayStations, he walked out with everything, and he used to go pawn it. And the police said, oh, because you guys are legally married, there is nothing that we can do about it. He has the right to this stuff. It doesn't matter if his name is on the lease. It doesn't matter that he doesn't live here. It doesn't matter. None of this stuff matters. You guys are still legally married. So he has the right to anything in this house, because it is community property. That was the biggest puncher. The police in Colorado, they never want to arrest you. They never want to arrest anybody. I can get all into that. But they didn't arrest him. When he did get arrested, the times that he did get arrested, it was always for BS. Like, he stole some Sour Patch Kids candy out of someone's car. He broke into the car to steal the candy when he had $200 in his pocket. He got arrested and went to jail. They put him on probation. He did a few other things. He used to go to this college called University of Boulder, and he used to steal their desktop computers, and he used to steal out of the library. He got arrested for stealing somebody's iPhone or iPod or something and selling it. He got in trouble for stealing some electronics, but he was doing it religiously during their spring breaks, during their holidays, and he would pawn it. He pawned this one that he got arrested for at an Easy Pawn, where he used to pawn my stuff. The other stuff, it was a place on, like, in Colorado, if you're from there, was a place, an electronic place, I believe it was on Iliff and Buckley, and he used to just sell all kind of stuff to them. He used to sell all kind of stuff. Was it Iliff and Buckley? It was somewhere in that area. I don't know. Was it Iliff and Buckley? I believe it was. I don't know. But he used to sell the stuff that he stole from the University of Boulder. And the University of Boulder was like 2-3 hours away from the city that we was in. But he used to get on a bus and he used to steal religiously, okay? He stole from everybody, including us, but the police didn't do nothing. They didn't do anything. He had a warrant out for his arrest for something that he did in Boulder too. He got arrested for that, but long story short, he never really went to jail. He was on 3 different probations at the exact same time, because in different cities in the same state, because they just give you a slap on the wrist. It's been a whole lot, but anyway, so he did a lot. Where was I at though? So basically, he had a child. I don't know where I was at. The police would never arrest him for stealing out of my house. And so I moved. I waited. That time I had to wait until my lease was up because, you know, later on in life, I had money to come and go as I please. But at that point, I didn't used to have no money to just up and go, just dip out like that. And so I moved. Where did I move to after that? Oh, that's the house. I moved into a house. I took my sister in. That's where we found out that he was living in our attic, climbing in through my kids' windows and stuff like that. They didn't do anything about it. I notified my leasing company and they put me up in a condo somewhere else. He found out where I lived because I was working the same job for years. So he used to follow me. He found out where I live. And so instead of me, I felt like I couldn't do anything about it. So what I did was say, okay, you can rent out my garage. You can live in my garage. So he lived in my garage for a couple of years. He never paid no rent. He just lived there. He had a cot. He had a microwave. He was very content living in the garage. He would come up maybe like once a week to take a shower or something like that. But it was a whole lot of abuse in between. One day I remember I had filled him out a couple of job applications. So he was working at Target, and what he did was he stole a co-worker's credit card and he bought him a video game, and so they fired him. They didn't press charges, but he used his employee discount to do that. Then he was working at Home Depot, where he was stealing out of the cash register. So the day he was supposed to get promoted to the main manager, he stole out of the cash register. He got caught. They made a police report. Nothing ever came of it. No police ever came after him. He was working for this place called Argus Event Staffing, and he was stealing cell phones out of the lockers of his co-workers, and he got in trouble. He got fired for that. He worked at this place called Easy Pawn in Littleton, and he was stealing everything from Easy Pawn. He was stealing video games. He was stealing electronics. He was stealing all kind of stuff, and so he got fired. He got let go for that. I'm trying to see if he worked at Ross. He worked at Ross, and when he worked at Ross, he had stole someone's purse or credit cards out of their out of the basket. They had left it in the basket. He stole it, bought him a whole bunch of stuff. He never got in trouble for that. But anyways, yeah, I'm over here snitching. He never got in trouble for that, because the state of Colorado don't care. But what happened is he ended up getting arrested from Ross. He got arrested for a warrant that he had from Ross. And when he got arrested, he ended up calling some other fling or some other person that he was messing with or dealing with. she ended up letting him stay there and things like that. But she had reached out to me because I guess, I don't know what he was telling her, but she was like, you know, you need to put yourself on child support if you have kids out here in this world. And he went up to the child support office and pretended to put himself on child support. He had did all kind of stuff to impress people, and I wasn't stunting him whatsoever. Me and him were not together. He was just a constant headache in my life, and the reason I felt like I couldn't date. I tried to get a divorce three to four times, and in the state of Colorado, you have to ask for a default judgment. Now, me being not an attorney at that time, I had no idea how to push a divorce forward. I couldn't afford a lawyer, and they just kept dismissing it because he wasn't doing his part of the divorce. So the same judge over and over kept dismissing the divorce every time I filed it because of lack of progress. So we weren't moving forward in it because we both had to do our paperwork, and he was refusing to get a divorce. So one day, and I'm the kind of person, like, I made an oath, I made a promise, I stand on my word, I made a promise to God. So until I get an official divorce, I ain't gonna be with you, but I'm not about to be with anybody else. So I hadn't been with anybody else for years, okay? And one day I said, fuck this shit. I hadn't seen this man in a minute. And I said, or actually 2014, let's go back. He was living in my garage. He was working at Lowe's, and it was the first month that he was working at Lowe's. I remember he told me, they said that I stink, so I have to, you know, I'm gonna get in trouble because people are complaining about my smell. And so I was like, okay. So I got him some clothes and things like that, because his clothes, he was homeless, he didn't used to wash his butt whatsoever, so his clothes just stunk. It was just disgusting. And so I bought a whole bunch of clothes and stuff. And so he got his paycheck, and I said, okay, now let's work out a child support agreement. You give me $200 a month for child support because you've never helped me financially in any way, but you have a job and you're living in my garage now, so you give me $200. So he gave me $200 that day. The next day, I asked him, like, okay, so when are you going to find you a place now that you feel stable in at this employer? When are you gonna find you a place? And he was like, I'm not about to go nowhere. If you want me to leave, if you want me to move out of your garage, then all you have to do is tell me that. I just went back upstairs because my house was upstairs. I just went back upstairs. I was just like, whatever. So he came and he knocked on the door, and he was trying to talk to me. I closed the door. I locked him out. I wasn't trying to hear it. And then I heard something, a loud ass noise. He tore my garage door off the hinges because he was so pissed. So he tore it off the hinges, the frame, everything came off. Remember, I was renting this condo. He tore my garage door off the hinges, and then he, when I opened the door, I'm standing at the top of the stairs, and I'm like, what the fuck? What's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm talking a whole bunch of mess. And he ran up those stairs as if he was going to attack me. I closed the door, didn't let him in. A few hours passed by. I'm thinking he's gone. I go out to my car, which was parked like around the block, because he used to live in my garage, so I used to have to park in like the parking area. And so I do that or whatever, go out to my car, and I come back upstairs. I didn't see him nowhere. I come back upstairs. I had left my door unlocked, okay? Wasn't thinking. So I'm in the bathroom doing my hair. My kids are asleep. My sister is asleep. Everybody's asleep. I'm in the bathroom combing my hair out. I was braiding my hair. I was putting some individuals in my head. And so he walks in, and he's standing right there, and he's like, I want my money back. And I was like, you want your child support back? I was like, you're not gonna get your child support back. And he was like, I want my money back and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, you're not gonna get it back, so get out of my house. And I went back to doing my hair. My daughter, who was like 1.5, 2 years old, she woke up and she started crying while I was in the bathroom. She walks over to me, and I pick her up. He ain't said nothing. He ain't said not one word. But I walk out the bathroom to pick her up. And as soon as I walk out the bathroom and I pick her up, she's in my hands. I turn to go back in the bathroom. He rushes us. He tackles us, pushes us in the bedroom. My daughter flies across the room out of my arms, and he's just attacking me. I guess he thinks that I have this money on me. He's hitting me, he's punching me, he's ripping my clothes, he's doing all kind of stuff. So then I guess he thought that he fucked up. Now, at this point, I still was like, I'm not about to call the police. I'm not about to call the police because that's not how I was raised. I'm not gonna call the police. You know, I could defend myself, whatever. He had left. He had went downstairs. I saw him sitting at the bottom of my stairs when I opened the door. He had attacked me. I had bruises all over me. I had all kind of stuff. I had took my daughter and told my sister to take her in the room and blah, blah, whatever. And everybody else was still asleep. And so what happens? I went to the door, and I seen him sitting at the bottom of the steps, and he was talking to his dad, and he was like, yeah, Dad, she's gonna try to say that I hit her and blah, because I didn't call the police, but I told him I was. But Dad, she's gonna try to say that I hit her and I didn't do anything, and you know, she stole from me. She stole my money. Wasn't true. We had an actual written contract, and I have that still because I keep everything. But he was on the phone, and he was like, yeah, Dad, this is what's going on, and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, his dad wasn't worth a damn dime. And his dad is like, okay, it's okay. You just call, and you tell them what happened, and you tell them blah, blah, blah. His dad is basing his advice based on the lies that his son had just told him. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna call the police and blah, blah, blah. And Dad, she's yada, yada, yada. And he's just sitting up there lying. I said, okay, let me call. That's the first time. So I called the police. And when I called the police, he tried to rush me. And at this point, I couldn't go back in my house because I had already been like, I had already stepped halfway down the stairs. So I wasn't fast enough to go in my house. So he tried to rush me. So I hop over the little balcony and I run. I take off running. I run to my car. And I get in my car. He didn't chase me though. He did not chase me. I get in my car and I'm telling him like, yeah, he attacked me and blah, blah, blah. And so they come, they take my story, and then they take his story. And his story is just a whole bunch of BS. So they look at me and they look at all the bruises all over my body, and they look at the scratches on me. I was cut and I was bleeding because he caught himself taking my car keys too. So they saw all this stuff wrong with me. My pants was torn, my clothes was torn. He wasn't touched because I think he tried to say like I attacked him, or he said we were having an argument or something, and he said he just went in my pocket or something like that. He didn't say anything that he did, but they saw all the marks on me, and they arrested him. They took him to jail for domestic violence, where he pled guilty. He ended up not fulfilling his parenting classes or his domestic violence classes, and so he went to jail for 30 days after violating his probation. That wasn't nothing. California throw the book at you. That's why I don't fuck with Colorado. But anyways, he went to jail. I didn't see him too much after that, okay? Periodically, I would see him. He told me I'm too young to have kids. He was working out at Lowe's, and the people he was hanging out with would tell him, oh, you're too young for this, you're too young for that. So he told me one day, I'm too young to have kids. I want to turn up with my friends. But you ain't never had no kids, sir. You ain't never been a parent to these children. It's just been me living here and taking care of them, and you like trying to be close by, following me everywhere that I go to. But that's what he said. So I said, okay, that's fine. Occasionally, like my son would see him and be like, oh, you know, I want to blah, blah, blah. Father's Day would come around. My kids would be so sad because they used to do events in Colorado where it's like donuts with dad and things like that, and everybody else has a parent. I used to be so broken from this. And so my son used to be like, oh, I want to see him or something. So I would call him up like, hey, one sec. Okay, I'm back. Anyways, so my older son used to want to see him. My other kids didn't. They didn't have any kind of connection like with him at all. my second and third child, they didn't have any kind of connection with him. And so they never requested him, but my older son did. And it was taking a toll on my older son, because even though he wasn't around them like that, my kids weren't ever around any man. Remember, I didn't date this whole time. I started dating one day. I had to have a talk with God, and I said, listen, I know I'm legally married, and that held a lot of weight to me back then. It don't no more. But I said, I took this oath. I'm legally married, but, I haven't been with this man in so long, and he refuses to get a divorce. So I know you know my heart, and I'm not trying to do anything sinful, because I was really in church. And I said, I'm not trying to do anything sinful, but I want to date. And so I had started dating, okay? This was in 2015. I had started dating. And I hadn't done nothing in like 3 years. 4 years. But anyways, I started dating, and my older son wanted to see him, and I said, hey, I'll pay you if you would go to the zoo with us or to the children's museum, because I did it 3 or 4 times and paid him, and he would come with all kind of conditions. Oh, you got to buy lunch, you got to pick me up, I don't have no money at all, so you got to pay for entrance, I'm not spending nothing, I'll just be there. And so that happened 3 or 4 times, okay? And nothing came of it. Nothing bad happened. But I used to ask him, when are you going to get mental health treatment? Because, I understand that this is a disease. So when are you going to get mental health treatment? The people that he were living with used to tell him, oh, you don't need anything but love. The person that he deals with now, I saw a photo where she was saying, like, all you need is love, or love heals, or something like that. No, you need medication. You need medication. I had actually got a court order for him to be put in a mental health facility and get mental health treatment. The court granted this, and he never did it, and they never enforced it. Or I guess I was supposed to go back and enforce it, but I did not. I didn't go back and enforce anything. Because he was out of my life at that point. I wish I would have enforced it. The order has never been rescinded, okay? But anyways, and this order was in 2015. So, what else? Okay, so we had went, I think it was the Children's Museum. And, my dude calls, and, this is the first person that I had started dating. And he calls, and he was like, I like to have songs, like I always have a ringtone for somebody. And so I don't know what the song was, but it was nasty, it was ratchet. And so it started ringing, and he was like, who is that? And I'm like, it's my man. Oh, you're dating? Yeah, I am. How are you dating? Like, what do you mean? How am I dating? Oh, you don't care? Because he knew about the fact that I feel like he didn't want to get a divorce, because he knew I took my oath. Really, he felt like I would never date, because I had said that I can't date until you divorce me. And I said it for years on years. I used to beg for a divorce. He used to call up to my job. I know I have a couple of employees who remember this, because I was going to use this in court. He used to call up to my job, and he used to be like, oh, if you want a divorce, meet me at court in 10 minutes. And I used to be up there, and he was a no-show. Like, he used to play like that. So anyways, he was like, you're dating and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah. And then he was like, and I know I probably shouldn't have did this, right? But he was like, oh, are you fucking him? And I was like, yes. Mind you, I had not been intimate with this person in a long time. I hadn't even seen him in a very, very long time. It had been years since we've been intimate. We were not in a relationship at all. But he was like, oh, you blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, he said something. And I was like, well, shit, I swallow too. That's what I said to him. He hopped out in the middle of traffic, slammed my door, was hot. This is after we had already went where we went. But I'm just like, dude, why are you over here? You got a baby mama. I'm not dealing with you. We ain't even on that level. I'm trying to be cordial with you and leave the past in the past. And you in here going off and doing all this stuff. He had hit my dashboard and stuff. And so I'm like, nah, like he got out in the middle of the street, and I didn't mind. You know, my kids were asleep in the back seat. They were knocked the heck out. They had had a long day, and I fulfilled what I needed to fulfill. I had paid them to be there. And so I didn't see him for quite some time after that. And then I got into this. That's not the only relationship. So I didn't see him for quite some time after that. Then Christmas came of 2015, and he had hit me up because he's always had my phone number, contact information. He's just never called, email, everything. He had hit me up and he was like, oh, can I come by there? And I said, for what? And he was like, I have some Christmas presents. And I said, okay, you could bring Christmas presents. He came by there and he brought like 3 or 4 things, little like Family Dollar store things. And I was just like, okay, what did he come over here for? He tried to fuck me. I don't even get down like that, sir. I don't even like you like that, sir. I don't do it. He ended up blowing up, breaking some stuff on my counter, and leaving. I said, okay, I'm not gonna answer my door or my phone for this person. I never wanted to be the person, the bad or bitter mother, you know. And so even though he was mentally ill, and I know what had happened in the past, I felt like it was in my kids' best interest at that point for us to try to put the past in the past, as long as it was in a safe environment, as long as he was never alone and things like that. So that happened. Okay. I didn't speak to him. This was 2015. I didn't speak to him. I ended up getting pregnant, which you could read about in the Pretty Pedophile book, or the video that's labeled A Few Thoughts for Light Workers. It's on YouTube, A Few Thoughts for Light Workers, that talks about it. But I ended up getting pregnant. I had dated a couple of people, you know, in between that. I dated 2 to 3 people, but I ended up getting pregnant. And y'all know that whole story, or that whole case. The guy ended up being a pedophile, okay? And I told y'all that's what led me to this light work and getting deep connected with my spiritual team, prayer, meditation. That's what led me to being able to receive the messages that I receive, and I, you know, give to all of y'all. So the guy ended up being a pedophile. We had a long drawn out custody case. He was molesting my child. He was doing all this stuff. But one thing he said is, I'm gonna find your ex and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, you ain't gotta find my ex. Like, I could call him. So I called him and I said, hey, dude, this is what's going on between me and my child's father. You know, he might try to reach out to you. I don't know why, but this is what's up. And he was like, oh, I know. He told me how he had been watching me on social media. He ain't had a Facebook until probably last year or whenever, 2019. September 2019. But he told me like, oh, I know, I heard this, that, and the third. I seen it. It was stuff that I had posted. He was like, I seen this, that, and the third, and you guys are really fighting and blah, blah, blah. This is what's going on. And guess what? I know some things about him. You said that he is doing this to your child. Guess what? Somebody told me, which was his girlfriend, his new wife. Somebody told me that he had got arrested for molesting 2 other people. One of them have cerebral palsy, and he ran it down. He gave me all the information on this dude. Now, why you didn't give me all the information prior to, when you have my number and stuff like that? I didn't know. I found out about this dude, and I'm not gonna get into that story because it's already, I wrote a book. Like, come on, you could purchase the book, which will be available at mystaroshop.com. But I found out because I went to social media and I posted a picture of him in this Sis Is This Your Man group in Colorado. And I said, listen, I have a child with this person. There are some really concerning things happening with my child. I'm trying to figure out what's up, what's going on, and all this stuff. And if anyone knows who this dude is, because I'm not from here, if y'all got information on him, then please hit me up. And super people was hitting me up. A lot of people was hitting me up and telling me the situation and telling me the story. And so that happened. But let's get back on this first one. So, which is why I tell y'all I don't date. I didn't date for 3 years after that. And then I met my soulmate. 3.5 years after I had my daughter. So basically he was telling me, he was giving me the rundown on my baby daddy, okay? And we were still legally married at this time, but he was giving me the rundown on my baby daddy. And so while he's sending me messages, I'm screenshotting every message and I'm sending it to my baby daddy. And I said, listen, this is what people are saying about you. And is this true? And he's like, trying to like, that's, y'all can read the book, okay? I'm about to put it on my website. The book is 2.5 years old, so it's an unhealed version. When I was real ratchet, it gets in detail. It's gonna be $30 on my website. But anyways, so he was telling me all of this stuff, and you know, he's acting like he wants to help me and things like that, but he was still back to his old crazy ways, or he was set in his crazy ways. I had told him like, yo, I want to put my baby daddy on child support, but because I'm legally married to you, that you're the legal father, and so I can't do that. So, you know, can we please get a divorce, and can you sign a paper saying that you're not the father, because, you know, we ain't been together in years. But if you are legally married to one person and you have a baby by somebody else, then that's the legal parent, period. And they have to go on child support. So child support enforcement was trying to put my ex-husband on child support as opposed to the actual father. So he signed the paperwork, and then I said, okay, let's go get a divorce. You know, since we're cool, let's go get a divorce. I took my baby, I had her in my little sling or something, and we met at a bank, okay, that I lived by. And I used to get all of my stuff notarized there. And so we met there to get the papers signed and notarized so we could have a quick divorce. And when he seen my daughter, like she was like, oh, she's so cute. And the lady, the notary, she's so cute and blah, blah, blah. And she was talking about her, and she was just saying all this stuff. And I was over there happy while I'm signing divorce papers. And I'm like, ooh, it's about time, you know, and I'm thinking we cool. I'm thinking like we could joke and stuff like that. He went the F off. He threw the biggest rant and tantrum in there. To the woman was like, are you okay? Do you need an escort out? And what's going on with you? And, you know, all this stuff. Like, she was like, he would not sign the divorce papers. He signed 2 pieces of paper that I still have to this day. He signed 2 pieces of paper, and he stormed out, knocked over the chair. He would not sign the divorce papers because I had my child. He didn't like the fact that I had a baby, and so he wouldn't sign the divorce papers. He stormed out. I didn't talk to him for a little minute. Then he started to, we had to see a child and family investigator because of what was going on. We had a high conflict case, and when I read the report, it was like her ex-husband said this, that, and the third. And he was like, I reached out to him and he was like, oh, I never said any of that. She's lying on me. She's blah, blah, blah. Now, low-key, I feel like he said it. But because the woman, you could read the book, but because the woman was full of shit anyway, I don't know. You know, I low-key do feel like he said it because he used to try to do anything to tarnish my reputation. He hates the way everybody else loves me, like, people flock to me. It's not hard for me to make friends. It's not hard for people ride for me for real. And it's not hard because I'm a genuine person. And so he's always hated the way that everybody else loved me. And so he hated to see me improve or increase. I used to just, I worked my way up to the point where I was extremely self-sufficient at a very young age. I always had my shit together. I've always, pretty much always worked unless I was pregnant and on bed rest. I always made a way, and he hated that. He didn't get a driver's license until he was like 26, 27 years old. He couldn't drive. He couldn't do a lot of stuff for himself. He's still to this day has never had his own apartment, his own place. He's never had to take care of bills on his own. He's never had to do any of that. The whole time he was living in some people's basements, and he had convinced these people that I was public enemy number one. I had not done anything to him. They believed every lie that he told about me. And I used to just be like stuck, like hurt, like, yo, because I'm a Scorpio and y'all know we be soft as hell. And I'm like, yo, we were friends before anything. We were friends long ago. Even through all this shit that you put me through, I still fed you. I still tried to help you, get you some help. You know, I couldn't be with you, but that wasn't, you know, I'm not going to say that was my choice because I for sure didn't want to be with him, but that wasn't something that we could have too much controlled. That was, you did that. You did that. I was not about to risk my children or anything else to be in no damn relationship. Like, come on now. In all the relationships that I had been in, my kids had never been around anyone. The guy that I had a child with, the baby daddy, my kids had never been around him. They met him 4 days before I gave birth to my daughter. They met him 4 days before I gave birth to my daughter, and they met him in passing. Like, literally, I was like, I'm about to go into labor, so I guess you could meet my kids. Hey, children, this is such and such, this is the kids. He was like, what's up? What you guys like to do? What you blah, blah, blah. All right, that's enough. It's a wrap. Please go back. That was it. Besides, you know, Jeremiah is the only person who really, really were around. So all this stuff happened. Basically, the pedophile was arrested for sexual assault on a child. The day he pled guilty, which was March 6th or 8th of 2019, I was served with divorce papers. Mind you, I had talked to my ex like here and there, just how we have been talking over the years, like once or twice a year or something like that. But I was served with divorce papers, and I was like, oh, it's the best day of my life because this dude is a convicted sex offender now. Even though they're not sending him to jail, they're giving him sex offender intensive therapy and probation. Even though they're not sending him to jail, this is still the best day of my life because now I got to see this man sentenced, and I get to get a divorce. I've been trying to get a divorce forever so I can get remarried. And so I hit him up like, oh, I got the divorce papers. Like, I'm thinking everything is good. I got the divorce papers, blah, blah, blah. He was like, okay, I got a lawyer. Here's my lawyer's information. I'm like, okay, cool. I hit her up, and she, off the bat, she's like accusatory tone. She's talking so much stuff. And I said, listen, your divorce papers are wrong. It's saying that this happened when this never happened. We have had a protection order because he was convicted of domestic violence, and they put the state, you guys know, if you ever been arrested for something like that, there's a mandatory protection order. I'm like, you know, all these things have happened, but it seems like the narrative you have about this case is wrong. So let me clarify. Let me tell you what's really going on. So I started telling her, you know, what's really going on. And I said, you know, I want this divorce to be as fast as possible. As long as he receives mental health treatment, I don't have an issue with him because the incident was so long ago. Not just that incident, but the last incident of abuse was like 4 years prior. And so I was like, as long as, you know, he is not crazy, because I really chopped it up to he has intermittent explosive disorder, and that's why he keeps doing all this stuff. So it's like, you know, I don't have a problem with him actually seeing them, as long as he receives mental health treatment, like the Department of Human Services in Hawaii said that he needs, and his psych eval says he needs mental health treatment for the rest of his life. So, as long as he does everything he needs to do, I don't have a problem. Let's do this. Let's do it. I said, my other case is over, and so I plan to relocate. I had been telling him this for a while, and he had agreed to a relocation. She came in like, y'all not relocating. Y'all got to stay in the state of Colorado. He wants 50-50 custody or full custody. He wants yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, where the fuck is this coming from? So I hit him up and I said, what's going on? Did you lie to your attorney like you be lying to all these other folks? Why do you keep telling, if you want a divorce, let's get a divorce. I've been trying to get a divorce forever. Why do you keep telling folks this false narrative? This don't make no sense, because it's been going on for freaking years. And he has wrote me letters, which I still have, where I'm so sorry that I lied on you, and I'm so sorry that I said this, that, and the third. I know that this is not true. I know that this is not your character. I don't know why I lied. Anywho, she was going real hard, and I was like, no, this is the facts. She was like, there's no child support enforcement in this case. There's no record of him actually ever committing domestic violence against you. There's no record of this. There's no record of that. If you have a record that says otherwise, then I will correct the court documents, and I will submit it to the court. So I sent her the records. Baby, it's records. It's records on top of records on top of records. I have all my stuff together. I have freaking documents from when I was a child, okay? So I sent her all this stuff, right? She never corrected the record, so she perjured herself. She decided that she was going to lie to the court. She said, oh, thank you for the record, blah, blah, blah. I will amend my petition and include this information. But she didn't want it to look bad on her client, so she never did it, even though she had it. She was like, you've been harassing him. You've been threatening him. Baby, when? I don't reach out to this dude. You said that you were going to do this, that, and the third to him. Look at the record, sweetie. Look at the record. Talk to the mutual friends that we know, or the mutual family. Because mind you, still to this day, I don't know any of the people that's in his life. I don't know anyone that we did not grow up with. So all the people who don't fuck with me, who don't like me, who be on his social media talking shit, talking about, oh, I'm going to beat her ass, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. Never met him a day in my life. He got this best friend who said, oh, she gonna do this, that, and the third to me. Never met this person a day in my life, okay? With the person that he's with right now, this girl ain't never tried to have a conversation with me to see what's what. He has lied to her saying, oh, I took my kids indoor skydiving. We went indoor skydiving on her dime. It was her credit card that he used to pay for it. I got photos, pictures, all of that stuff. But he convinced her that he had taken the kids by himself, and he done had this girl lying in court. I ain't never met her. And the kind of person I am, if you don't understand what's going on, that's fine. We can have a conversation. I'm not going to just hate on nobody. I don't care who you is. I was glad when she came in the picture, because she started paying his child support. I knew when he had got someone, because his child support was coming on time, and I was happy about that. I have no sexual feelings or desires towards this person at all. I actually feel quite the opposite. The thought of sexual intercourse or any kind of sexual gratification from this person makes me sick to my stomach. And I'm not saying that to be a diss. I'm saying, like, no, hell no, hell no. So anyways, y'all, what ended up happening was his attorney, basically, she just started lying. They started saying that he worked at places that he didn't work at. They started putting up a false narrative. They started forging documents to the court. I have a text message where it's like, it says, I just got it the other day because we went to court, and it's supposedly for me, and I'm saying, you pussy ass, I hope you commit, blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. Like, basically, I hope he KILL himself. I'm posting this video, so I'm trying not to get, I'm trying to make sure it stay up, because I want to tell my truth. But I ain't never called somebody a pussy in my life. I ain't never called somebody a pussy in my life. Okay, I don't even talk the way that they try to put it out there. But he's again, that just shows he's created text messages. He has teamed up, co-conspired with the person who molested my child in order to try to take me down. Now, here's the thing. The whole time I was with him, I've always been a strong woman. And so he ain't never had the ability to break me. The only way to break me is to fuck with my kids. That's the only way. Because anything else, we can get it. And so the thing was, he saw that I was so broken from what happened to my daughter, to the injustice, to the, I want y'all to read the book, but I had to file so many complaints. I had to show that a judge was sexist, racist. I had to do so much stuff. But I prevailed, I won. But I had to do so much stuff to show what was going on with my child, and that this person was trying to kill me and things like that. And so he saw me broken. I was broken. I've never been broken like that before. Okay. And he saw that, and he realized that he ain't never seen me break. He ain't never seen me fold. And so he decided he wanted in on that action. So let me team up with the only person on the face of the fucking planet who's ever been able to break her. And I wasn't soft. Like, I'm soft right now. I'm a softer version of what I used to be. But I wasn't soft at all. I was hard. I was over there thugging. And so he saw, a few years ago, he saw, that this man had the power to break me. And so he decided, I'm going to team up. He did all kind of unnecessary stuff. We had a child and family investigator who basically brushed his allegations out the window. Basically, everything that he was saying or he had tried to say through his attorney was disproven. It was proven that never happened. I was called super mom, okay? I was called super mom. This is how people reference me. And so all of his attacks against me didn't work. He was doing so much and I couldn't understand. He would tell my kids, oh, the only reason I'm talking to you is because the court is forcing me to call you twice a week. And so I started recording the calls. Because you're not about to mentally abuse my kids. If you don't want to call them, you don't have to. We could just get a divorce. I'm not pushing for no custody issues or nothing. We already been there, done that. I don't feel like they're safe with you in any way, shape, or form. So he was doing stuff like that. The courts, the same corrupt judge, but we'll get to that, basically said he can have visits with the kids. I tried to stop. It was supervised visits. His girlfriend is the parenting time supervisor. I dropped my kids off at McDonald's and he abuses my kid during a supervised visit. Instead of his girlfriend stepping up, she tells my daughter, you're gonna go to jail if you don't get inside McDonald's. He picked my son up upside down by his legs, threw him in a booth. He did all this stuff. And then this woman who the court appointed as a supervisor, corrupt Colorado court, says a girlfriend can be a parenting time supervisor to someone who's mentally ill. That's corrupt as hell. She threatened my kids. So I picked my kids up. They were curled up in fetal position and they were crying. And I took my kids, put them in my car while they were crying. And I got to tell the whole story. I was upset. And so I said some choice words. We exchanged words. I exchanged words with her and him. She got up and she ran across the McDonald's. And my kids came, but I wasn't trying to do anything to anybody. I'm not stupid. I know we're going to court. Why would I could handle this the other way. But anyways, he's threatening me. outside of McDonald's telling me, you ain't hard, bitch, I'll beat your ass and blah, blah, blah. Like, he's telling me all this stuff. Mind you, the only time this man has ever attacked me is when I was with child. Every time I get pregnant, that's when he attacked me. But anyways, he was like, you know, you ain't, except for the time that he attacked me with my daughter in my hands. But he was like, you ain't hard, I beat your ass and blah, blah, blah. He's doing all this stuff. Long story short, he got arrested for child abuse. He told the police, these is my kids. I could discipline them how I see fit. How is these your kids, sir? You ain't been around them and this is a supervised visit. So you don't feel like there's anything wrong with what you did. You show no remorse whatsoever. So he gets arrested. His girlfriend, she had hired this lawyer. She was pushing the issue because, of course, I know that he told her all kind of stuff. But, you know, I'll never know because she is clearly under his spell. So she hires him another lawyer because she's a pharmacist. And so she hires him another lawyer. Right now, I think she's a pharmacist for the company Safeway. She was for Safeway. I think it's Albertsons or something now. But she hires him another lawyer for this child abuse. So now she's paying for 2 lawyers, or he's paying for 2 lawyers. And he ends up pleading guilty. Now, our divorce was right before then. We were supposed to get a divorce. They tried to have the divorce case thrown out. You filed for a divorce. We've been going through this for over a year. You're lying, saying I'm not letting you talk to them. He really was trying to prove parental alienation. And they was really trying to go for that shit. I ain't never alienated nobody. However, given the circumstances, come on now. But I ain't never. But he tried to have the divorce case. The divorce was final February 3rd. He tried to have it on January 28th. His lawyer filed a motion to continue the hearing so that we couldn't get a divorce because they wanted to have his legal issues out of the way before the divorce case. The court said he was a danger to the kids. They restricted his contact to the kids. The criminal courts said that he put a restraining order on him for 1 year when it comes to my son. This man continued. He egged my car. He popped my tires. He did all kind of stuff. And then he went on social media and played the victim. After he had already agreed that he was a danger to the kids. He emailed the court and he agreed to waive his right to a hearing and accept all sanctions. He then said on social media, probably 3 weeks later, and after our divorce was final, I'm fighting for my kids. I'm fighting so hard. I just want to see them. How? We had the hearing. You could have fought for them in there. You didn't fight for these kids. You're just lying. And on there, everybody is like, oh, she's such a bitter ass bitch. I hate to have a baby mama like that. I hate to blah, 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 like going in. Let me beat her ass for you. Let me do this, that, and the third. Someone, his friend, tagged him in a post and was like, look, she's keeping your kids away from her. Can't you get her arrested? It was a post about people, women going to jail for parental alienation or something like that. His girl is on social media talking about her favorite line is, I'll see you in court. Look at my hat. They had hats made. They had all kind of stuff made based on the lies that he was telling about me. She got people on her page talking about, oh, I'll beat her up and blah, 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 and I'll do this, that, and the third. Now, that don't faze me because ain't nobody gonna do nothing. Ain't nobody gonna do nothing. He then went to court and he said that I'm an extremely violent individual and I wanted to kill the father of my child, the person who molested my child. And because I wanted to kill the father of my child, that 4 years prior, that he was scared for his life and she was scared too. She went to court and she said, this woman calls me a dirty Caucasian and she says blah, blah, blah about me. And she has interrupted his job before. Mind you, I don't know this woman. You don't know me. I've spoke to you on 2 occasions. You're just in there lying your ass off. Okay, the court allowed a 10-minute hearing. 10 minutes for each party. So a 20-minute hearing on this, okay? And they said, well, he requested an NDI, so usually we just grant an NDI and blah, blah, blah. But no, so you ain't gonna take into consideration the fact that I have a permanent protection order. He has done all of this abuse. This was Colorado. That's why I don't fuck with Colorado. You're not taking any of this stuff into consideration. You're just going to say because he requested it, then he can get it. That doesn't make any sense. And then I've proven that they've perjured themselves so many different times. My son had braces and they said, oh, there's no Comfort Dental where she lives. He said, I Googled it on the record. Mind you, he's not supposed to know their doctor, their dentist. He's not supposed to know anything. But this is what he does. Just like the business that I'm in, he watches all my videos. So I'm sure I'm going to be in court about this one. And it's all good. But the business that I'm in, they have screenshots from my business page. They've been harassing me. They will go on my videos, pressing dislike and do all this stuff. Like, for what? Move on with your life. You haven't been a parent in years. Move on with your life. But this is what he's been doing. My kids, I had to tell my kids the other day, hey, because the court said that he can have supervised visits via Zoom, on Zoom. I told my kids, my daughter started crying. My son was just like, why? He doesn't, look at everything he keeps doing. Why? And when he says that, he's talking about the fact that every time my son comes in contact with his father is telling him stuff. Like he tried to put on, my son told me this out of his own mouth about a year and a half ago. He said, he's nice to us in front of other people. But when it's just us, he's not. And guess what that is? Intermittent explosive disorder. He's only nice in front of other people. And then when it's them, then he wants to try to get in their ass and he can't do that. So supervised Zoom visits, and my kids are just like, why? He said himself to the kids that he don't deal with them. He don't like them. So he's doing all this stuff trying to prove that he's a good parent, which is what he says. But what it really is he wants to keep me in court. Now, we've been in court for 2.5 years. I've been in court for 4 years total. We've been in court for 2.5 years. Hopefully, I don't have to go back. I tried to abate child support, to terminate child support. I said, I'll hire my kids. I'll put them on my payroll. One of them already is, but he don't make enough. But I said, I'll hire them so they can be considered emancipated. You know, we don't need nothing from him, because then they say, oh, we need to know her address and her location and all of this stuff against the protection orders. They subpoenaed my children's therapist when they weren't supposed to. That was a violation of the non-disclosures, the protection orders. That was a violation of everything. They tried to subpoena all these records so that they can find my location, or so they can just continue to harass me. But then when I say something about defending myself, I'm the bad guy, and they try to take me to court and say they are so scared for their lives. They won't move on. They won't move on. It's a sick obsession. And I know as a Scorpio, Scorpios tend to facilitate obsessions against them. But it's absolutely insane, okay? Like, he wants to force kids who are teens to be around them. One of them is not a teen, but she's really scared. But he wants to force a teenager to be around him. Like, he don't understand how much these children are going to hate him. And I try to just be there for them emotionally and, you know, just keep them in therapy and things like that, because I can't say nothing. I try not to have an opinion either way. I just be like, hey, you know, this is what's going on when it comes to what they have to do. I don't include them in the court situation. When we were going to court, he was saying, oh, the judge is making me call you guys. The judge says this, the judge says that. Like, he was including them, and then would turn around and be like, their mom is saying this, that, and the third. I just wanted to get all that off my chest, because I want y'all to know what's going on. I got to be completely transparent. I know that there's people going through similar situations. The state of Colorado is corrupt, which is why my case is no longer in the state of Colorado, because they are so freaking corrupt. It's ridiculous. They will allow someone to completely murder you and then accept no responsibility for their actions. And me, I try to be a good person. I really do. And I decided, I'm not going to, physically do anything outside of protect myself, because I have a lot to lose, including my children. So the other day I just said, fuck it, spiritual warfare. That's what I said. I said, fuck it. Let's play with the spirits. Let's play with the spirits, because I'm tired of trying to be the good person and trying to compromise and trying to, do all this stuff. And I keep getting attacks through these fraudulent documents. Ain't nothing being stopped, nothing like that. So I said, let me get in my freaking cauldron then. Let me go to the spirits and ask them for protection and ask them for intervention and ask them to fuck some shit up. And I never do that. And if you've had a personal private reading with me or a session or anything, y'all know I tell y'all don't do stuff like that. But it's crazy. And watch, they gonna get this video because they spy on me, and then they gonna say, oh, a friend of a friend sent it. Illegal surveillance. That's what they do, is stalking. But I don't give a fuck. So I just wanted to tell you guys my story, tell you guys what I've been going through for quite some time now. I know people are going through similar situations. I have made it through it. I got full soul care and control, full soul custody, decision making of all of my children. The pedophile is not involved in any way whatsoever. I'm sure he might try to be, because Colorado is corrupt, and of course they try to do anything to disturb my peace. But oh, that's another thing. They got a lawyer for the pedophile. So the lawyer for the pedophile is co-workers or suite mates. They work in the same office as my ex-husband's lawyer. So they got a lawyer for the pedophile. They share documents. They try to share evidence, and they try to lie and co-conspire. So that's why I said they co-conspire. And so my thing is, you care about your kids. This is what you want people to believe. This is what you're trying to tell me after you just recently abused them and just got off probation. You care. So why would you even co-conspire with someone who molested their sister? And then you say, oh, I don't speak to him. Only my attorney does. What? So you're paying someone to speak to a pedophile. Okay. Say less. Goodbye.